No, the world does not collapse, and the mind does not run wild. On the contrary, when you put down the iron, the water settles. There is a wonderful image in Taoist philosophy about this. It says muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. If you have a jar of muddy water and you want it to be clear, you cannot use your hands to push the mud down to the bottom. You cannot stir it to separate the clear water from the dirt. The more you interfere, the muddier it gets. But if you simply set the jar on the table and walk away, in time the mud settles of its own accord and the water becomes transparent. The mind is exactly the same. It has its own intelligence, it has its own capacity to settle, to digest, to resolve itself, but we don't trust it. We are like a person who has installed a burglar alarm on their own heart, which goes off every time the heart beats. We are terrified that if we stop watching ourselves, we will make a mistake. We will blurt out the wrong thing. We will become impulsive. We will lose our edge. But consider the centipede. The centipede was quite happy, quite comfortable, walking along with his 100 legs, all moving in perfect, rippling harmony. Until one day, a toad sat by the roadside and asked him, politely, "Pray, Mr. Centipede, which leg moves after which?" This raised the centipede's mind to such a pitch. He lay distracted in the ditch, considering how to run. He tried to watch himself walking. He tried to intellectualize the process. And in doing so, he paralyzed his own natural intelligence. You see, you are a centipede. You are an incredibly complex organism performing millions of simultaneous miracles. Right now you are turning air into blood. You are turning breakfast into energy. You are regulating your body temperature, fighting off microbes, and processing light through the retina. All without the slightest idea of how you are doing it. You don't have to watch yourself digest your food to make sure it happens correctly. If you did, you'd probably mess it up. There is a wisdom in your biology, a wisdom in the very grain of your being that is far superior to the wisdom of your conscious attention. The conscious attention, the watcher, is a very useful tool like a spotlight or a radar. It is excellent for troubleshooting specific problems, but it was never meant to run the whole show. It is a spotlight, not the engine. When we try to live entirely from the position of the watcher, we become clumsy, we become awkward. We lose our grace. Have you ever noticed that when you try very hard to be charming, you become annoying? When you try very hard to be natural, you become artificial. This is the interference of the watcher. It is the echo confusing the source. The great masters of Zen, or of fencing, or of tea ceremony, they understood this perfectly. They knew that to perform an action perfectly, the I, the watcher, must disappear. If a samurai warrior stops to think, "I must block this sword stroke," he is already dead. The thought is a delay, it is a hesitation. To survive, the blocking must happen, as the attack happens. There is no gap, there is no space for a watcher to insert himself and say, "Good job, old boy." This state of acting without watching, of doing without the sensation of a doer, is what the Japanese call Mushin, no mind. It doesn't mean you are an idiot. It doesn't mean you are unconscious. It means your consciousness is not blocked. It is not sticky, it flows like water. The bamboo shadows sweep the stairs, but no dust is stirred. So, we come back to the impossibility. You cannot watch yourself watching yourself, because the watcher is a fiction. It is a delay mechanism, it is a form of hesitation. What you feel as the watcher is actually just the lag of memory. You do something, and then a split second later, you think about what you did, and you call that thought me. But it's not you, it's a residue. It's a wake behind the boat. And when you see this, when you really see that there is no little man inside the head, no pilot in the tower, the sensation of isolation begins to dissolve. You realize that you are not separate from the world you are perceiving. You are not a camera taking pictures of reality. You are reality. You are the universe knowing itself. The eye cannot see the eye.
The fire cannot burn the fire. The knife cannot cut the knife, and you cannot watch yourself. Now, this sounds like a loss of control, doesn't it? It sounds like we are abandoning the ship.
But in fact, it is the discovery that the ship steers itself. Or rather, that the current and the ship are one process. When you stop wasting 90% of your energy trying to control your own mind, trying to bite your own teeth, that energy becomes available for living. It becomes available for seeing, for hearing, for loving. You become more alive, not less. You become more distinct, more vivid, because you are no longer covered in the fog of self-concern. The anxiety that you feel, the angst of modern man, is the friction of the split. It is the friction of the wheel trying to turn against its own axle. When you realize the split is an illusion, the friction stops. The silence returns. But be careful, you cannot try to stop the friction. You cannot try to get rid of the ego. Because who's trying? If you say, I will now practice the meditation of not watching myself, you have just set up the watcher again. You have created a new I who is proud of his spiritual achievement of not having an eye. And you are back in the trap. You are back in the hall of mirrors. So is there a way out? Or are we doomed to chase our tails forever?